With this season of Vinland Saga, how they decide to pace and structure the episodes is beyond me. Other episodes are desperate for material, this one has too much, and so what do? They make an extra episode 18.5, Ketil's speech at the beginning of 89, where he rouses the farmers with the Norseman motto, might makes right. And also, against all odds, they didn't make a scene with Leif reuniting with Thorfinn, they cut it exactly as the manga did. I was sure they were gonna cave in and do it. This is exactly the kind of filler they did. People don't like that it's skipped. I actually do, but I still see this as a miss from the anime to not add needed content that everyone would love. The reason I like it is cause first, all the substance of it is in this scene in episode 19. I really don't need to see the exact reaction of the moment they meet, okay? Listen, out of any of Thorfinn's father figures, I care most about Leif and his relationship with Thorfinn. I am invested. But this reunion isn't really that important, come on. It's not the center of this whole story, in spite of what some people would say. Plus, I also think it's used in an emotionally resonant way. It's harsh and blunt, and you're immediately presented with this panel, which tells you everything. In the face of Fahrenheit's condition, the characters and the audience don't get to be happy and have this long-awaited scene. The decision to sacrifice it is to me noticeably felt, and gives this scene weight. Story is taking the serious stuff seriously without compromises. Episode 19 adapts chapters 89, 90 and 91. I found it somewhat of a mediocre episode. I predicted that it wouldn't be given too much attention, as it's sandwiched between some of the best stuff in the series, while it itself deals with the plot and sets up stuff. Not that it doesn't have any substance to it. It also had normal standard pacing, so at least that felt good. First thing to note is the manipulation of the farmers by Thorgil. First by not telling them they're fighting the king, gathering them all together and riling them up before that so that their pride stops them from leaving. Then by just casually dropping the number of enemies without mentioning the actually important stuff. The "oh you have no idea" in the manga is the best translated line here. Thorgil's really fun. He also makes a buzzer sound which is a complete anachronism, but I like the flair. Thorgil was great in this episode. Can't say the same for Olmar. I really didn't like his scene, where he admits that he can't be what his brother wants him to be. It didn't look very good, I wasn't sold on how his voice was handled here, the vibe was just off. And it's a shame cause I really like it in the manga. Ketil on the other hand has gained a lot of confidence after beating a woman that couldn't fight back, so he desperately deludes himself into thinking he can win, making him responsible for all the lives lost here. It is confirmed again that Ketil has never been a warrior, always has been a weak-willed coward. People always expect him to be Iron Fist Ketil in the end. Oh damn, now he'll wake up and fucks it up. Which is really dumb, the real Ketil is an infinitely more interesting character. This would invalidate every previous Ketil scene. Snake is still going to fight for him though, cause that's his duty. Ketil fed him after all. Doesn't matter that he's a liar, he still has a debt to pay him. Spherical guilt tripped him enough in episode 6. That's Snake's character, Norse values in a well-meaning person. Snake obviously has done and supported some bad stuff, but he has some admirable qualities to him. Pride and honor aren't necessarily always bad, they can lead to some good things. At the same time, I think Fox's suggestion has merit to it. Thorgil might have been a problem, but it's possible they could have saved more lives. Alternatively, it could have cost more too. At first I thought Wild Dog has been replaced by someone with black hair here, but I realized he was like that in episode 18 too. Am I crazy or his hair in black and white here is obviously supposed to be red? And here they extended Arnheid's little vision. Every time they add a bit of dialogue like that in the anime, it feels like some corny thought someone wrote on Twitter while watching the episode. Look, I'm happy you got something out of this, but it doesn't need to be in it. I get the fanfiction vibe, but that's probably because it feels alien to me at the time, cause suddenly, line I don't recognize is throwing me off. Here, as the battle is about to start and they show the Jomsvikings, there's that really neat effect that adds some three-dimensionality to the picture. I wish they used that stuff more. I can only remember them using it once in episode 14 in season 1. Not much else to say about the episode, and I may not have a lot to say about episode 20 either, because they delayed a major scene which directly talks about things that happen in this one. I really don't know how to go about talking about this episode. Well, first of all, it adapts chapters 92 and part of 93. It was well paced and one of the better looking episodes of the season, but because of that missing scene, I expected it to have the Kobayashi treatment. It begins like the manga with this Fox moment that I love, and they did it justice. Fox doesn't have a lot going for him, but all of his moments are fantastic and communicate really interesting things. Fox is someone that enjoys using violence. It makes him feel powerful to break men. We know this from what he tried to teach Solmar, his thoughts on killing. You won't cower in fear of others. But then in the next scene he talks about how everyone is afraid, how that is necessary for the sword's value. Now in episode 20, the roles are reversed. He is up against warriors stronger than him that will enjoy cutting him to pieces, and he is frozen from fear. That feeling of control and power from beating someone weaker than you is only an illusion. No, you're not him. There's always someone stronger than you. If you claim might makes right to justify your actions, then you better accept it when someone forces their righteousness and justice on you. There's some really cool rotoscoping here. I love the fight scenes using it. They're fun, they're grounded, perfect. Meanwhile, look, Wolf and Thorgil have a tertiary character fight. This is a great fight both in manga and anime. Not much is different, just Canute Cape worked better in the anime. Manga Thorgil immediately cuts it and stops Canute from getting away. But the anime does the annoying thing of the villain monologuing in the middle of the fight or as he's about to finish off their opponent. That doesn't happen in the manga. Either cut this dialogue or have it while they're moving and fighting. The interesting thing about this fight is that there is no point to it. There is one, only for Thorgil. It's meaningless really, in a good way. Back in the cart we have callback after callback in a set of really important moments. The chest compressions is something Thorfinn learned back in episode 1, or chapter 4 I think, when Thors was similarly trying to save a slave's life. And it's also an anachronism. From what I understand, cardiopulmonary resuscitation was not a thing back then. I believe Vinland understands this, so it presents it more like some secret technique. And to complete the callback, we get the full Vinland speech again, which is way more impactful in the manga cause it's the first time it appears after the beginning. Leif didn't make it in the end of the prologue, and definitely not Thorfinn to Hordaland. Like in chapter 4, death comes as a relief from the constant suffering of life. Arnheid repeats Thorfinn's exact sentiments from episode 3, in reverse. What will I gain by living? It's nothing but pain. Why do I have to live? And there's the Arnheid-Thorfinn connection. On surface level, it doesn't seem like there's a lot between Thorfinn and Arnheid, but Arnheid's story is extremely important for Thorfinn's. It's just not spelled out to you. This forces Thorfinn to face these questions he himself posed in the beginning of the arc. Has he found an answer? Arnheid's voice has been killing it, but like many major scenes, I'm very particular about how I imagine it, how it's perfect for me. I would have gone with Arnheid being more callous in the end, rather than pained or sad. I want no bittersweet in this specific death scene, only bitter. I even like the line, everyone's died, everyone I care about, being a bit insensitive to Thorfinn and Einar. To me, in this scene, that composed, mature image of Arnheid cracks, and it's just a person in pain, whining for the suffering to be over. I think that's a part of why I like Arnheid's emotional scenes so much. It's like that trope of the gruff strong dude that has one unexpected emotional moment, like Bjorn or Gardar. For some reason, Arnheid felt like that. She has a very reassuring, stoic energy to her. Her life was horrible, but that never managed to change her. She felt reliably static. Gotta think about that more. When Snake appears, by the way, Thorfinn uses violence to stop Einar. People sometimes miss that. And I do think he saved his life also. How do you think Snake would react? But I do not fully appreciate Thorfinn's dialogue here, cause usually Thorfinn talks from personal experience. Specific moments and scenes motivate him. The anger you feel will not disappear. You don't know that personally. Thorfinn is either talking generally from his experience in the war or about Askeladd in context of his story, which is possible, but it just doesn't completely line up in my head. I can shake off a little bit of unintentional, because a lot of times in Vinland it feels intentional, presumptuousness here from Thorfinn. After this scene they switch things up and the rest is new. Canute's words they added here are accurate and relevant for this situation. I like it. Most of this dialogue is a pretty good choice, bringing up that story from chapter 3, is it? The last bit about the 100 men is so funny, it might be setting some wild expectations, which are amusing from a certain perspective, but it feels like misleading generic hype generator text. And because they didn't add the scene, I will retract my criticism and still expect an episode to be called Birth of a Warrior. That's it for this week.